Good morning, good morning. Turn your volume up. Oh, I thought this beautiful male was going to start roaring as well. Well, that's a great way to start today, and I suppose I don't really need to say good morning anymore. That roar says it all for itself. Now, we're sitting right in front of the dam at the moment where the gremlins are plotting their revenge against the dam cam, unfortunately. You can see Henry the hippo is around, and of course, well, David and I are here too. And it would be lovely if these lions came over and had a little drink and came out of the thicket that they perhaps are hiding in. Isn't that lovely? Well, I suppose I should introduce myself at some point as well. Hey, what do you think about that, David? Yes, well, just in case you're first time watching and you're very unsure as to what's going on about here, well, my name is Taylor, and on camera with me, you heard, David is around. And of course, we're surrounded by Henry the hippo and Amber Eyes, one of the male Birminghams, well, and it sounds like the rest of them are down in the drainage, which we'll be following up on in a little while. We're just having a quick look around here. Maybe the rest of the pride that seems to be down in the drainage will come out and emerge. And it seems to be quite exciting that, they seem to be excited as well this morning, a little roar. And I was really hoping that this male Birmingham that we're looking at over here was going to join in and call with him. But apparently not. And just before we started, this Birmingham got up to try and mate with Amber Eyes. Well, unfortunately, he got a paw in the face, and that was the end of that. She wasn't having any of it. But it just seems as though she doesn't mind the company too much. Since I've been here, I've definitely seen a change in Amber Eyes when it comes to the Birminghams. She would never sit near any of them. And I've only been here for about 2 months now. And now, well, it seems as though she doesn't mind their company too much, well, as long as they just keep their distance. Right, I think we're going to go around and have a closer look. Henry, are you happy that the lions have now moved away? I think Henry was a bit concerned at one point because I suspect that he had all the lions around him last night, and that's probably why he's still in the water, because we know Henry doesn't actually spend too much time in the pools and the pans. You see him as we glide past. We'll come back to Henry, though. He likes to go out and graze during the day and sleep in that drainage line where all the Tambuti thickets are. Oh, but it seems as though Amber Eyes and one of the Birminghams, I didn't even have a look properly just yet to actually see who he is, but in a moment we'll see him and get a closer look. But thankfully they're going to take us straight down to where the rest of the pride is, which is nice. So no real need for tracking this morning, though David and I did have a beautiful sight when we came around and just turned off quarantine. We saw all of their footprints and it was quite special. So perhaps once we're done here, we'll go back and have a look, and I can show you what quite a few lion tracks look like all together in the sand. It was really nice. Now, let's see what Amber Eyes is going to do. It looks like she's trying to get away from him, and he keeps blocking her. Look there. So now she's trying to do the long way around. And, of course, the Birmingham is hot on her heels. No surprise there. And off they go around the corner. Well, let's not get too behind them in case they decide to go through some very thick vegetation. Oh, I need to turn that down now. James is he's around. Don't worry, it's not just me today, but James is out. He is trying to fix a tire, which is always a fun way to start your morning. We'll try and get oh, hang on, that was actually not a bad view. We'll just reverse a little bit. There they are. Right, I'm going to plop herself down. Bit of growling. Not quite ready to go down into the drainage just yet. So this looks like Tinyo. Of course, Mfumo is very easy to tell the difference between the two, because on his right side of his face he's got a gaping hole, which is healing, but it's going to take some time. And of course, Tinyo's got the scar on the left-hand side of his lip. Well, and he seems to be the other Birmingham that hangs around the Nkuhumas quite a bit. Hello, boy. Now, it's quite interesting. I thought that Amber Eyes looked a little bit on the round side this morning. So it'll be interesting to see when she starts walking again. I don't know if it's a food baby or perhaps some other kind of babies maybe inside. I don't want to speculate just yet. Their gestation period is so short that often you don't really know until the last couple of weeks. It's only 3.5 months long and can be quite difficult to tell. Hopefully we'll start to see if she is. One of the first signs is obviously a bulging belly, and then of course we're going to start to see those mammary glands swell slightly. And then of course after that, what we'll start to see, she'll start to disappear. See there, she's got a bit of a belly. Now I don't know if that's just all the buffaloes that they've been feeding on over the last few weeks. So I'm just going forward because we're behind a tree and I think we could be missing some action. No, they're just walking away. Oh, he wasn't walking very delicately. I don't know if you could hear all those branches breaking. Come on, lions. Even the elephants walk quieter than that. Now you know what's going to happen next, because we are going to have to start following them, of course. I'm going to try and find a nice pathway. Oh no, they seem to have just laid down for a second. Amber Eyes is down again. And of course, Tinyo standing guard. Now, I would like to find the rest of the Pride. Let's see if we can't go down into where they are. I think Aubrey's going to go and try and find the rest of the Pride. And let's see if we can keep up with him here. Now, this is obviously quite thick, but they didn't sound too far away. I think they're just down in the next gap in the drainage. But we'll stick with these two for a moment longer until Aubrey has a go and tries to relocate the others. Hello, good morning. Oh, I wonder if I haven't identified this Birmingham wrong. I haven't seen him for a couple of days. I think it's been about 4 days now since I've been with the Lions lot. Let's see if his face... Maybe it is. Has his face healed that much? At one point, it didn't even look like he even had a wound on his face, and I thought that was going to take months to heal. Perhaps it is. Let's just have a proper look. Can you look towards us, please, Mr. Lion? He's going to flop down now. Actually, let's go forward a little bit. Just want to get a bit. Maybe I could have been completely mistaken. I got a bit excited and maybe jumped to conclusions. No ways. This is honestly incredible. I apologize. I don't know why I thought this was Tinyo for a moment. But if you look at his wound, I can't believe that. Look at that, how that hole is closing up. It's not bright red anymore. It's finally starting to scab. That is absolutely incredible how quickly this wound has healed. Now that the scabbing has formed, it'll probably just be a couple of days or so, maybe a week at max, before it is completely sort of scabbed up and that skin is going to start closing together. That is bizarre, because the last time I saw him, he had a big gaping wound, and that was only a couple of days ago. I seriously thought that this wound was going to take months and months to heal, but apparently not, and that's fantastic for this male lion. My apologies for misidentifying him, but I'm so used to seeing that big gaping hole and all the red flesh. You see still a couple of flowers over there, but I don't think that they're doing him too much sort of harm. I don't think they'll be laying eggs again. You can see that darkening there on the scab. You see, that's beautiful. In terms of what an injury could look like, that is healing so well. I mean, you remember how massive that hole was. It almost looked like you could stick your hand inside it, and it looked as though it needed a stitch or two. But it was just slowly filled out. And now it's just that last top layer that needs to heal. Fantastic. Well done. We were all a bit concerned about him at one point. But isn't that fantastic news? I'm excited. This has made my week, that it has healed so well in just a couple of days. I can hear the other lions in the far distance. They're making all sorts of strange noises. Now, chatting about my speculations about amber eyes, and I know Brent had also sort of a similar feeling. And I know Michael was wondering this morning, I think that amber eyes is a problem with getting pregnant? I'm not sure. I don't know this lioness very well, but I'm just looking at her body, and she's starting to look a little bit more on the plump side, and not sort of the look that they get when they've been devouring lots of buffalo. She just looks different type of a fat, I suppose, to me, than what she normally does. And like I said, we'll only be able to tell in the last coming weeks when we start to see her mammary gland swelling, and then also her behavior will start to change. Now, whether she is infertile or not, I'm not sure. That would need to have blood tests and all those fertility tests done. That's something we can't just speculate about. But I'm unsure, because she has been mating quite a few times. It's like people in life. Sometimes people only come into estrus much later than others, and I suppose there's always that possibility for lions too. I suppose we can't really rule something like that out. And maybe that she was just an exception to the rule, and only later in her life has she really started coming to estrus. I don't know how possible that is, but it would be weird, and it would be incredible if she does indeed become pregnant and she gives birth. I mean, that would be an amazing story. And we can only keep our fingers crossed and sort of see and wait and see what happens. Now, Teresa, you're wondering if she was pregnant, would he still try and mate? I've seen it before where, so we had this is down in the south again, we had a coalition of males called the four-ways males, who were beautiful. Also, had eyes almost like amber eyes, sort of orange and beautiful dark black manes. And they mated with two of the females, and they took to those two males, and then the Charleston males came in and did a pride takeover and chased the four-ways out. And it was a very clever move from the Southern Pride. And what they did is those two females that sort of were almost ready to give birth, they were probably about 3 weeks away when those Charlestons came in. I think they came into false estrus, and they started mating with the Charlestons, thinking that then when they had cubs, that the Charlestons would think that it was their cubs. That, you see, this was the first time the Charleston males had ever mated with females. It was their first pride takeover. So they were very young and naive, and the lionesses were very clever, because it wasn't about maybe 5 weeks later that indeed both lionesses gave birth. One set of cubs unfortunately didn't survive, but one of the older females, her two cubs did survive, and they're now almost a year old now. So I thought that was amazing how they were able to do that. And the Charlestons still don't know any different. So two of the cubs in the Southern Pride are indeed not the Charlestons' offspring, but indeed the four-ways male's offspring. So something like that could happen. I witnessed it. Maybe she's just pretending. I think these animals are a lot more intelligent than we sort of make them out to be. Isn't this lovely? Now, if you're wondering and you've just perhaps started watching and you're wanting to know how you can get your questions answered, if you have any, you're welcome to either hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can even just send us an email, questions@wildearth.tv, and myself and James will happily try and answer any of the questions that you have this morning. But I'm strange how Amber Eyes is sort of separated just a little bit from the rest of the pride. Perhaps this male is sort of coaxing her away. Now, chatting about Mfumo's wound on his face, which has healed so nicely over the couple of days. I know that William was wondering if there will be any hair that will start to grow over that wound once it's healed. That is indeed correct, William. Once the scabbing has completely healed and sort of fallen off, I suppose, and the tissue has grown back together, then over time, like you see with the rest of the scars, they'll eventually heal and the hair will start to grow over it. That might take a little bit longer, but I'm absolutely blown away at the rate over the last couple of days of how this wound is healed. It just shows you just how tough these animals really are. But he seems to be having a nap right now. Hello, Tony, old boy fish. Now, I know you're wondering, I'll open your question now. I'll answer here. You can see I've been reading a lot of emails recently that I'm going to open the questions. That's, of course, not the case. We'll try and keep up with them. Now, Tony, you're wondering if there was sort of, if anything came of how he got that cut. So I actually saw it happen. He got a swipe from one of the females. I can't remember which female it was. I think they were fighting over a carcass, and he ended up with a tiny little nick on the side of his face. And what we think happened then is that either a bot fly or a screw worm, one of these sort of flies that lay their eggs on animals. Now you get different types of things that happen. We think anyway it was a type of myiasis, and one of the flies actually laid its eggs inside the skin and then caused a big abscess and a swelling, and it then burst. And once it burst, that was obviously when the eggs had hatched. And those larvae don't just feed on dead skin, but they feed on living tissue. And then, of course, that caused a big irritation. The hole got bigger and bigger in his face. But they eventually pupated and they left. And we think there was a second set of eggs that then burst, because a couple of days later we saw maggots again, and then we haven't seen anything since, and it's just been healing. But let's try and keep up with these two and see where they are going. I think we're going to go around the corner. I just want to ask Aubrey if there's some space that side. Aubrey Taylor. No. Just try and get hold of. I can hear the guards a little bit further up from where we are. So I suspect they're just around the corner. Oh no, I can hear Texans here now. Around here. Sorry, just please bear with me for just a moment. I just want to find out where the rest of the pride is. Texan Taylor. Tex, is it possible to come into that sighting with the rest of the pride? I've lost visual of the other two. Copy, thank you. Okay. So Amber Eyes and the other boy, they're just lying off into the thicket, but I think up ahead is where the rest of the pride is. So we'll just come along here and see if we can get a view. Like I said, I could hear them when we were sitting just behind us. Now, they were making some interesting noises, so I wonder what's going on. Hang on, here they are. So it seems as though they're moving slightly. We're just going to limit. It's a bit difficult. Let's try to take a long look from a long way away. Can you see them through there, David? But it seems as though they're moving. I saw one of the other Birminghams, which I presume is now Tinyo, and one female sort of getting up. Now, it's quite overcast today and there's a lovely breeze. It's not particularly warm anymore. I wish the flies would realize this and go back home. We could get a few little drippy drops maybe, but this would be very good weather to hunt in. There's a bit of wind, it's nice and cool. The lions won't be using too much energy. No, I'm not sure if we're going to get in there. I think space seems to be quite limited in this area that they're laying. We can just be thankful that they're not down into that drainage, because that's a difficult one to get into. Oh my goodness, the flies are everywhere. You can probably hear them buzzing around me. So if you see if you see everything shake a little bit, it's me waving my hands around like crazy, trying to cover my nostrils and my eyes and my mouth. You can see a little bit of movement everywhere else. I don't want to crowd these lions. You all know how I feel about that. So I'm going to give them space, even though it means for us not having the greatest view at the moment. I think we'll just put too much pressure if we try and squeeze a third vehicle in there. Perhaps we can go back. Let's maybe reverse and go back to Amber Eyes and Mfumo. And then we'll take it when there's a spot open here. Then we can come in and join them as well. But hopefully they won't go too far. Right, just reverse a little bit here. Right, there they are. That's okay. I think we may actually have to go in. There's a little spot for us over here, though, to go in. They're hiding perfectly behind a tree. So we'll have to just go off-road just a little bit and have a closer inspection. And there they are. So they're not far from the Pride now. They're probably only about 50 meters from each other. You can see something's caught Amber Eyes' attention. She keeps looking around and listening very carefully. You can see she keeps sort of reprimanding Mfumo. Maybe we'll actually try and follow them through here. It seems to be quite open. Well, we know where they're going. They're going back to the Pride, so maybe we can follow them in from this way. Maybe we'll have a little bit more room, but we shall see. I may change my mind as we get further and further into this thicket. Right. I think what we'll do is we're going to hang tight here for a little bit now, but I believe that James has finally finished changing his tire and is ready to say good morning to you. But the other lions are just at the back of the two of them. Sorry, I'm just taking my foot off the brake. She said, leave me alone. No, he doesn't know what to do with himself. He will still lay close by, I'm sure. We probably won't be able to see these lions. A little bit back. Yeah. Is that fine? Now, we were literally just a couple of meters, like I said, from the rest of the Pride. We can sort of see Amber Eyes. They're quite far down on the left, though, behind some trees. But we managed to come around to the rest of them now. Now, there have been reports that apparently they killed a waterbuck, but I can't see anything waterbuck-like here. But also, I suppose a waterbuck wouldn't be very much of a meal for 5 adult lionesses, 2 big males, and, of course, 8 very hungry little cubs. So possibly they've devoured it already. They've all got big fat bellies. As you can see, the cub at the back is displaying so nicely for us. So perhaps it's just off into the thicket what is left of the carcass. But for the moment, we can't see too much. And I can't see all the cubs just yet either. I can only actually count 2. So I suspect that the other cubs are in the thicket. But all 5 lionesses are here. And of course, Tinyo is in front of us now, and Mfumo is off still with Amber Eyes. But I think they're going to come towards us now. I can see some movement in the thicket coming this way. So I suspect, we'll see them, I suspect that they're going to come out actually right in front of us. Here we go, you can see that lioness jumping up. Oh, turn your volume up. There's a bit of growling coming between Nkuhuma and Mfumo. Now, I know that it does seem a little bit on the strange side that they've gone from having a lovely gourmet beef to going for a waterbuck. I know Anna Marie was wondering exactly. You can see the lionesses taking the cubs away. So what happened there is that Nkuhuma was being very protective over that lioness. And this other lioness came through. She was just really wanting to pass by. And Nkuhuma was not having any of that and launched into a full attack. Luckily for the lioness, she just acted submissively straight away and he backed off quite quickly. It was quite strange though. Normally the other lionesses will get involved though and have a go back at the male when something like that happens. But not this morning. They very quickly got up and went and obviously moved the cubs further and further away in the thicket. Now we don't have any cubs around us. So there's quite a bit of tension here this morning. But everything seems to be calming down now, except our lioness that got a couple of swipes. She doesn't seem to be very impressed at all. You can see her just sitting to the left, behind all the trees. Doesn't look like she got hurt though. They're quite tough. And like I said, she went straight into a submissive position. She went straight back onto her back, and he then backed down quite quickly. So perhaps there's been quite a bit of tension this morning. We did hear some roaring, and I wonder if that roaring wasn't instigated by Nkuhuma after perhaps getting into an argument again with one of the lionesses. And if it was a waterbuck that they killed, I can't confirm anything because I haven't seen the carcass just yet. Well, there may have been quite a bit of squabbling as well over that waterbuck, as there isn't much food for them to feed off of. Like I said, we've seen how they're absolutely able to devour buffalo carcasses. Well, let's see what happens. Oh, she's got a bit of a limp now. Now, you saw that lioness, shame she had a bit of a thorn stuck on her rump there, obviously from being pushed over by Nkuhuma. Now, GNV, you were asking this morning, and you're actually, sorry, just making a comment, saying that you've never really seen the males being groomed by the females. Now, I haven't seen this happening yet with the Nkuhumas and the Birminghams, but remember I was just telling you a story about the four-ways males and the Southern Pride? Now, those lionesses absolutely loved, I'm just going to try and turn around here and make sure that nothing falls. Those lionesses were almost infatuated with the four-ways males, and every time the four-ways would go off on a territorial patrol and they would call, the females would always respond and they would always move together again and find each other. And they loved, like I said, they loved each other. Every time they came back, every member would bump heads and sort of rub their cheeks together, and then it would end up in a big grooming session, males grooming females, females grooming males. And then the Charlestons moved in and that all stopped, The lionesses sort of acted quite similar towards the males, how we see the Nkuhumas acting towards the Birminghams. So it can happen, and I suppose it's like in life. Unfortunately, here with these lions, these females know that if they don't accept these males, then they run the risk of losing their life too, so they sort of just tolerate them to the absolute bare minimum. And then occasionally you see, like where I've witnessed, the fourways and the Southern Pride absolutely adoring each other, and that occasionally happens too. And one of the little cubs coming out to see what's going on, but now going back into the thicket where the other 3 lionesses are. And we'll probably try and venture in there at some point too. So I think what we're going to do is let's actually try and poke our nose in a little bit further. I want to see if we can't perhaps see the kill. It's quite thick in there though. And I see there's a little guarri tree that perhaps I can just nudge out of the way, and then we might be able to see it. But I'm going to try and keep my distance from Djuma. He seems very, very protective this morning, as we've just witnessed. Not that I'm worried about him, sort of having a go at us. We're in the vehicle, not at all. But I don't want to agitate any situations further, so we'll just leave him lay by all on his lonesome. Let's see. I'm just trying to find here a little bit. I'm just going to go over and try and squeeze past this guarri shrub. You're right there, David. Luckily there's no thorns on this one. We're going to squeeze in here. Right, I've got to do a little maneuver here. Sorry, guarri tree, but I know you're going to bounce back up. You're quite resilient. Can you see the little cubs there? So we can see all the cubs now. We'll have a little count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there's 8. I think I counted 8. I don't see any carcass just yet, though. I'm still looking around me to try and see what they've fed on. But I don't see anything just yet. Well, the important thing is not the carcass, but is indeed that they have big bellies. The only thing, though, is Amber Eyes doesn't look like she's eaten, and neither does Mfumo. They're actually walking towards us. Let's see. This is going to be interesting. Turn your volume up. Tinyo's already growling. You can see these males are both very protective over the lionesses that they've got. As soon as either one of them stands up, they both start growling. Now, chatting about earlier the situation where we had Djuma sort of launch into a full charge and push one of the other lionesses over and swipe at her a couple of times. I know that Marianne was wondering, won't the female lions stand together and try and push a male out? Now, they'll indeed do that, and that's why I was so shocked. But perhaps because all the young cubs are around, they wanted to try and get them out of the way, out of harm's way. That's obviously quite important. And I think that's why the lioness is sort of scattered. But typically, yes, they will indeed do so. I've seen it many times. No, I'm just trying to duck. They're walking away now. Lots and lots of little bits of growling. Now there's actually an array of different birds that we've got here in this drainage line. Melinda, you were asking which bird is whistling in the background. Now, I'm not sure which one you're talking about for the moment, but there's some robins. Sounds like some white-browed scrub robins calling. There was also an orange-breasted bushshrike and a couple of doves, as well as a black cuckoo singing the... He was also there doing his thing. But if it was a sort of a pretty tune, sort of with a nice melody, it was probably one of the robins, maybe even a white-throated robin, or, like I said, maybe even a brown scrub robin. I think I can see I can actually see a white-browed scrub robin, but it's very far away. I don't think you'll be able to see it. I just saw it jumping and fluttering through the leaves. Now, I'm just trying to duck. It's quite difficult. You can see them in there. Everybody's sort of on edge at the moment, especially the cubs. They seem to be watching quite carefully, and they're looking at sort of towards Tinyo, and I wonder if they aren't a little bit nervous of him. No, he doesn't seem to mind the cubs either so much. We had it the other evening where he was quite happy to have them chasing his tail, and one or two of them actually jumped on him, pretending as if he was perhaps a buffalo. But I'd also be a little bit nervous of him with the way he's behaving at the moment. He seems to not be in a very good place, a very protective place over that lioness. Well, these cubs don't seem to be too bothered. They've got full bellies. Now, it seems as though these little cubs are actually waking up now, because when we first arrived they said that they were fast asleep. So perhaps they must have killed this waterbuck or whatever it was that they eat, and maybe they killed it sort of late last night, and then they've been resting sort of throughout the early hours of the morning. Because I didn't see any blood on any of the lions, and that's typically what we see even after an hour or so of them just having killed something, or a few hours. There's still a bit of evidence around, and typically some blood on the paws or on the face where they've perhaps missed and they haven't groomed themselves. So I think that they killed whatever it was quite a few hours ago. And they're moving further and further into this drainage, which is not great for us. Now, Price in Texas, you've actually asked a very good question this morning, a question that I haven't ever been asked before. So Price wants to know, if the lions' tongues are able to lick the hair off of their prey, why doesn't it remove the hair off their own bodies? Now, I think that depends on how much force they put behind that licking motion. And I think when they groom themselves, they're a lot more gentle. I'm sure you've seen when they do lick a buffalo carcass or a kudu or whatever they may have caught, you can hear that sort of sound. It sounds like sandpaper. And when we watch them groom themselves, they seem to be a little bit more gentle. We don't really hear too much sound coming from their tongues, sort of that rasping sound. So I think it's something just as simple as how much pressure they sort of put behind that licking motion. You can see that lioness is getting uncomfortable with that cub sitting on top of her. And like I said, the flies are about. So I wonder how poor Tingana is doing, wherever he may be, because we know he doesn't seem to like the flies too much. There's an orange-breasted bushshrike calling now. No, it stopped. Can hear some brown-headed parrots flying over her head. Now these little ones have gone back to sleep again. The occasional swat of the tail and the paws. Those flies. Tamira, good morning to you. Tamira, you would like to know if perhaps, sorry, I'm just going to watch these other two on the other side. I'm surrounded by lions at the moment. Now, you want to know that when the lions are mating, will the male prevent the female from eating? Not necessarily. However, typically what happens with a pride is they do normally get separated. They get left behind, like what we're seeing here. Not that we've seen amber eyes mating in, well, today at least. I haven't been with the lions for a couple of days. But that's typically what happens. So it doesn't really look like they've had too much to eat, especially Mfumo. He looked very much on the slender side compared to the rest of the lions with their full bellies. So maybe they missed out this time, but they're edging closer and closer back towards the pride. But the only problem now is these lions seem to be up and moving deeper into this drainage, which is going to be very, very difficult for us to try and navigate through. I'm going to have to try and find another way in. Oh, there we go. And mating. No, no, not yet. He was ready, and she just said, no, I'm going to go back to sleep for a while. It wasn't really a proper attempt, I suppose. But we'll keep an eye on them. The little one trying to have a suckle. I think you're a bit old to still be suckling. I don't know how much milk this lioness is producing anymore. I don't think she's producing anything. Right. I think I'm going to see if I can try and find another way around into this drainage system. And while I do that, let's go back across to James. Turn your volume up. Now, I know I keep shouting, turn your volume up. I want you to hear everything that I'm able to hear. There is serious tension. Tinyo attacked one of the... I'm going to go forward. Very difficult to see, but he's fighting everybody this morning. Everybody except the lioness that he's interested in mating with, and I think that that's the young lioness. Careful, little cub, you better move out of the way. He's not in the best of moods today. And it's funny, every time he seems to have a go at whichever lioness it may be, whoever gets too close, he does this roar afterwards to just sort of assert and show his dominance. And then, of course, that gets him quite riled up. I wonder if there isn't going to be a clash between the two of them this afternoon, or if indeed Mfumo is going to be clever and just sort of keep his distance away from the pride. But I suspect what's going to happen is the other lionesses are going to get up now and move away completely from Tinyo. Well, that's what I would do, because there's now been a number of fights in just a short amount of time. That's what's happening. The cubs are being sort of rallied together. There's a couple of them moving off to the right, but we shall try and find another way across and into this thicket. You can see the one little cub still sitting there just to the right of the other lioness and Tinyo, and perhaps it will follow. Everybody else is getting up and going towards the lioness that's moving away now. We've lost sight of her, though. And now it seems to settle it down again. Now, we've been chatting about sort of Tinyo's behavior today, and I know that Jason was wondering if any of the other guides would be notified. Probably. If I bump into any of them, I will let them know, but it's not something that I'd necessarily sort of mention on the radio. This is, of course, just lions being lions and the general dynamics that we see in a pride. Sometimes they're tolerant of each other, and, well, like humans, sometimes you have a bad day and then you just take it out on everybody, and I think that's exactly what's happening here. He's always been the feisty one since I've seen him. I've noticed he seems to have the shortest temper out of the 3 Birminghams that I've seen. But I don't think he'll act that way towards us. It sounds like we've either got a Jacobin or a Levalence cuckoo flying around here. Have a look up top of that tree. Can you see it? All the way up there? And the big tree in the distance? There's one of the... There it is. That was a Jacobin's cuckoo that we very quickly saw. I hope you got a quick glimpse of that. That was amazing. Finally! Yes! I've been saying for I don't know how many weeks now that I need to get a cuckoo, any of the cuckoos, on screen. Woohoo! And the crowd goes wild. But finally, a Jacobin cuckoo. But let's see. I'm wondering. Okay, it seems like the lions are actually moving off. I would like to move as well and try and keep up with the cubs. Because I think if we can get ahead of the action, then it might be better just to sort of sit and wait and then get the other lions to come to us. Now I need to try and maneuver out of here. Now I'm going to do some serious maneuvering, and while I do that, let's go back across to James. Now we've managed to finally navigate our way through a variety of different trees, but we're down into the drainage, and look at this happy sight that we have found. Well, it's a happy sight for at least 3 of the lionesses for the moment, but Tinyo is itching ever so closer and closer. The other lioness is leading him towards the rest of the pride, and every time he moves, well, you can see the fear in the Nkuhuma's faces. They're keeping well out of his way today. But for now, they seem to be all right. And of course, all the little cubs are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all 8 of them with big bellies, suckling, some of them having a sleep. Is exactly what the others are doing. And that's good to see that they're all looking so healthy. Now, Tina from Ontario is wondering, how do you tell which cubs belong to which mother? That is a very good question. Sorry, I'm just listening. I can see amber eyes slowly coming towards us. You can see it just in the thicket. Now, this is going to be interesting. Tina, I'm going to get back to your question a little bit further left. Here we go. Tinyo's also up. Amber eyes are saying go away, and she keeps doing this. She doesn't move far and very quickly. She sort of just moves along quietly. Now you see how Mfumo is indeed marking his territory as he does it. He came right out of the bushes as if to say to Tinyo, yes, I'm also marking my territory here, because every time Tinyo gets up, he does the same thing. Sorry, I'm just pushing my hat down onto my head. He gets up, he rubs his cheek on a tree he's close by to, and he also sprays and marks his territory. They give each other a little eye. I wonder if there can be a dispute if this decides to get a little bit closer.
Now, I would love to tell you that I track these things, of course, to great personal risk to myself, but you'd all know, of course, that I'd be lying horribly. These lions are exactly where Taylor left them. They've eaten something, and I'm told it was 2 waterbucks last night. I don't know where they are, actually. I have no idea where the waterbuck are at this stage, and I don't think anyone's seen them, other than the original report which came from Aubrey. So that's the story here. Now, they've clearly eaten a huge amount, and this is very obviously a number of obvious things here. Hang on, let me just turn the game drive radio down. That is definitely Tinyo, the lion, the male lion. You can see that, oh gosh, he just turned. When he looked at us vaguely, you could see that he had that obvious tooth. Then the second thing is that lion, the little cub lying underneath the arch of that guarri bush, on its belly you can certainly see mange. Now, let me just look with my binoculars. Yeah, that is mange. And you can see it on the back of the elbows, which are where the front leg joins the trunk. Now that still, to my mind, is the only cub. No, there's a bit more. There's a bit more on the one to the right-hand side. It's a cub with a bit of mange there. That's it. But I think you're going to find that these chaps are going to survive this. Yes, they've got it. And there's another cub. In fact, the cub in front here has her ear is also covered in it. That's it, the one that's just sat up. So we do have a bit of a mange issue here with the Nkuhumas. We're going to watch it with interest. I think you'll find that they're going to be okay on account of the fact that they are eating so very much. Just quickly going to call Mike on the Game Drive channel. Mike, just come straight down Twin Dams Road. You will see the tracks going off to the south, at least towards the drainage line to the east, between Wahlberg's Eagle's Nest and the Gallagher and the Djuma Dam. So I know this could, I mean, look, it could be quite distressing to watch, especially if the disease does progress. But I think they've had it for some time now, and I don't think it's made a huge difference to their lives. And some of them are definitely clear of it completely. I don't know if you can hear, just off to the left-hand side of where we're sitting, some very, very angry birds. Some drongos and some starlings and some rollers. And I wonder, I think that there's probably a snake up there, you know. I don't think they're alarm calling at these lions. In fact, one of the lionesses just got up to look. There she is there. She's just behind this beautiful tambuti tree. She's just got up to look. And I wonder what she isn't just checking to see what it is they're shouting at. Because, of course, this is one of the ways that animals talk to each other. It's through alarm calls. And despite the fact, it's vultures. It's vultures descending. It's vultures going over the top and going down. And I wonder if that's not maybe where they killed last night. All the lions are up and looking now. There you can see very clearly that's Tinyo, which means tooth, of the Birmingham Coalition. He's easy to identify, as is the one with the hole in his face, Mfumo. Yeah, there are vultures descending in great numbers now. Look at them all coming from above there. And the lions, being the great scavengers that they are, will be watching very closely where the vultures are going. And I think we'll go and have a look too, and we'll just get Kirsty to tell Taylor that the vultures are going down somewhere, it looks like, on Quarantine. Perhaps the western fringes of Quarantine. Jeepers, look at them all going. Now, if these lions had not eaten something last night, I suspect that they would have got up and started running that way. Look at that fat lump there. He doesn't know whether he should yawn or pant. They'll move around continuously every so often during the course of the day. They'll reaffirm their social bonds, especially after they've had a night of fighting over a kill. Ooh, hang on a second. Another male coming from behind us. It's Mfumo and Amber Eyes. That's them there. And now this male, Tinyo, seemingly seeking out a consort amongst these lionesses. One of them doesn't have babies either. We'll keep an eye on Amber Eyes and the other one. There's much growling, and it is a blood-curdling sound, everyone. Apparently, the same thing was happening with Taylor earlier on. I don't want to move at the moment. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cubs. Just counted the cubs. So Tino is now up and looking. Now, there can sometimes be a little bit of fighting over mating rights, but you know, it doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes the males just kind of accept that one is going to mate and the other one isn't. I know I can't move. They've blocked our only exit from here. And Fumo is scraping his back legs against the ground, just sort of kind of marking his territory. VM is doing pirouettes. Amber Eyes, as per usual, seems to have absolutely no interest in mating whatsoever. Sorry everyone, I can't actually move there, so that's why you've got a fairly poor view. Anyway, there we are. Everyone is over there now. And Tino has moved to the back of the group. That's very interesting, I must say. I don't really know why there would be... I suppose it's probably just some kind of competition over mating rights. That's very interesting, Gail. A very fascinating question, actually, from Florida. You say, will the male be patient and just wait for the female to be ready to mate, or will he use force as well? He cannot use force. If she doesn't wish to mate with him, she just moves, and it is impossible for him to do anything about it. In fact, that is the case with just about all animals out here, bar perhaps the primates, of course, who have gripping hands, and they're able to then kind of manhandle, if you like, each other. It doesn't happen like that with any of the other animals, because the female has to want to mate. If the male wants to mate with her, she's got to be willing. She can just move away. Yes, the refusal to mate, I suppose, can result in some kind of conflict where he might get a little bit aggressive, but you see, he can't actually hold her down. So and she's also, you know, a lioness is pretty intimidating when she's angry, and so I don't think it happens. I think you'll find that unless the female is fully prepared to mate, no, the male is unable to have his way, as it were. And that's why these males just lie around, infinitely patient, waiting. These chaps ate a very, very large meal, and just before we left them last night, we were wondering if they'd try and kill last night. Well, indeed they did. And we're led to believe it was 2 waterbuck. And of course, when we talk about predators, the greatest predator out here is the human predator, and the human predators caused a great deal of trouble and strife for the rhino of the area. And Rick, you're wondering if the lions do the same sort of thing. No, they don't. You know, rhino are too big. Rhino are simply too big for lions to worry about. So no, they don't go for rhino out here. Yes, there's the odd occasion where a lion might, I suppose, in desperation try and take a young rhino, and if a rhino was orphaned, certainly it could easily be killed by lions. But no, you'll find that by and large, lions leave the rhino, especially in this area, completely alone. You know, bull rhinos, 2.5 tons, that's 6,000 pounds. I mean, that's a massive, massive animal. And these chaps, less than 1/10 of that size. Hello, Shannon. You're in Ohio, and you're just sort of following on the topic of the lions and the rhino. You say if a rhino was to die of natural causes and being eaten by lions, would we show it? Yes, I think we would show it, absolutely. I think that would it would be silly not to. We're not trying to hide anything here. All we're trying to do is to, if there's the slightest chance that a poacher might see where a rhino is, well, we don't want to be involved in anything like that. But if the rhino is dead already, then there would be absolutely no harm in us showing it, I don't believe. Good question there. The lion's very tired today after their fat meal. I think we'll sit here for a little bit longer and then we'll head across and see if we can't find what those vultures were descending towards. And like I say, if these chaps hadn't eaten, you'd find that they would have headed off and tried to follow where those vultures were going. Gregory, a very good question. You say you obviously you were watching those vultures fly from a huge distance away, and you say, how did they spot the kill? Well, Gregory, it's no more complicated than them having very, very good eyes. They're able to spot things from a huge distance away, and those vultures would have seen something dead on the ground from a long way away. The bush isn't too thick yet, and that's because we haven't had much growth, much rain yet, and so the vultures can see things from a huge distance away. And then what they do is one will find a carcass, and the others tend to follow that one. So one will find it, and then others that are closer by will follow it, and then those that are even further away will come and follow the vultures as well. And they all go down, and then they'll have a feed. And that's why the lions and leopards and all the other predators are very, very aware of where it is that vultures are when they fly over. I'm trying to put a positive spin on this mange thing, but I am worried about these lions, I must say. I would hate to see them all succumb to mange, but it is a natural, completely natural disease. And so we must just watch and see what happens and learn. There's the big fellow up. Every time he moves, there's a growl from behind us. They are quite nervous of each other, obviously. And there's always a balance, it's quite interesting. There's a balance between the violence that they're prepared to, the violence they're prepared to act on, and the need to try and maintain social cohesion within the coalition and within the pride. Now, Clay, you're wondering about if they're ever dangerous to us. With cubs like this, you always want to be a little bit careful, especially if you're tracking them on foot. And yes, they can give you a bit of a rev and get up and charge you. And if you're not used to lions, well, you might turn around and run away, and that could easily result in there being danger, because that is what a lion's prey does. If you stand still, generally you're okay. So you don't want to threaten lions with cubs, you don't want to threaten any lion, but a lion with cubs especially, you don't want to threaten. Then they can become dangerous. But right now, no, they're pretty relaxed, bar the two males who are clearly quite irritated with each other for whatever reason that is. And normally, of course, as with men, they're fighting over girls. But what I think you'll find here is that the rest are completely relaxed. A lovely breeze blowing through here now. Red-chested cuckoo in the background, the sun coming out. Oh, it's gorgeous. Very nice to have animals to film, really, Viam, isn't it? rather than just my waffling face. Liam is now being completely silent because he's agreeing. Oh, now maybe is that the female that's in estrus? This could result in a bit of conflict here. Yeah. And there's now a deep throaty growl from behind us, which of course is slightly terrifying. Every time that female who could be in estrus moves, he gets up. That results in growling. And her disposition is not exactly one of great welcome to him. He's kind of lying there, swagger breathing. It looks like he's sort of breathing with a swagger, as if to say, well, look how amazing I am. And she's got her ears pinned back, her face turned away, thinking, you're a stinky, stinky creature and I want nothing to do with you. Hello, Duck Rat Dave. We were chatting about mange a little bit earlier, and you're wondering if the mange does progress any further in these lions. Are we going to show them less? No, I don't believe we will at all. The reason we showed the sticks less, Duck Rat, what is it? Duck Rat Dave, is it? Is simply because they are not always in our traversing area. They've spent a lot of time on Chitwa and Little Gowrie and Mala Mala, which are areas we can't traverse. And so, yes, while we did see them looking mangy and pretty foul, we didn't have a huge amount of time with them. These cubs, we would certainly show. I mean, whatever happens, nothing will be hidden from you, and if we are able to show them their triumphs and tragedies with the mange, we'll absolutely do that. It is going to be interesting to see, because it's a little bit like, well, you know how, I don't know how many of you have watched that film or that amazing series Game of Thrones, or perhaps read the books, but there's a disease they describe in it called grey scale, where it's a kind of insidious movement of, it starts as a skin disease and eventually it kills the victim. And this mange is a little bit like that, where it starts in a little patch, and it takes a very long time to progress, but it does seem kind of inexorable, almost like there's nothing you can do about it. And it'll be interesting to see what happens here. That's certainly what happened with the sticks. It just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And of course, all these lions are lying in extremely close proximity all the time. And that's why I think they're going to be okay. Because I think that far more of them would have caught it by now if they were going to. Anyway, time will tell. Now, today, or this year, has been possibly one of the absolutely worst mosquito years I've experienced in my years in the Lowveld. And Fredes, you're wondering if the lions managed to escape the mosquitoes. They do to a certain extent, but they do get bitten. And many animals out here get bitten. Remember that human beings haven't really lived out here for a very long time in great numbers, which meant that the mosquitoes would almost certainly have had to drink the blood of other mammals other than human beings only. So yes, they can certainly get it at lions, and they can almost certainly get at all of the antelope if they want to. And so I'm pretty sure that they don't get protected from mosquitoes, but much like us in this area, through our natural kind of resilience to them. I've never seen so many mosquitoes as I have this year. And I know Taylor was talking about flies and the number of flies there are. Well, of course, mosquitoes are from the same order. And I wonder if it isn't just a year of the fly. Certainly it is a little bit worrying out here, given that there is sometimes malaria, but we've had very little rain, so we might be okay. Alrighty, let's just go and find out what Taylor's doing. I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer while there's a little bit of action with the cubs, and then we'll go and check out what was happening with those vultures. Carcasses. I think that have they crossed out there, Fiam?
Some of them have crossed. Looks like it's crossed.
That's very interesting. Okay, let's see if we can't get into the drainage, but I think we might have to go all the way around. That over there. There's much stick in this area. Hold on, everybody. Watch the back of your heads. I think we're actually going to have to make our way out of here. Now, these two, there's one cub left of these two with this consorting pair, which I think is quite strange. Yeah, they've definitely gone out, haven't they? Yeah. I'm sure they would have gone back towards the kill site. I can't see why else they would have moved. So let's go and see if we can't find the kill. Now, you might lose pictures as we go through here, everyone. We will have to flap the aerial down. How's that, Wimpy? All right, I think while we do this, let's head across to Taylor, see if she's had any luck with those vultures, and we'll see if we can find the lions. Starts to come. Lots of clay here. Well, here comes the male and the female. They're talking to each other. Ooh. Ooh. Her very slinkily there, draping her tail over his neck, just to keep him interested. She's still not ready to mate. Let's see if they come down and have a bit of a drink here. It's a very picturesque little spot, as VM says. Postcard picturesque. You know, Douglas in Arizona, you've made a very good observation, and you say, is it possible that the Birminghams are breaking into two coalitions, given that we only kind of see these ones with the Nkuhumas? Douglas, look, I think it would be premature to say they're breaking into two coalitions, but what is not uncommon is for a large coalition like this to semi-split, and one half take care of one side of the sort of territory and the other half take care of the other side. So yes, that is not unusual, and it does happen quite a lot. And it certainly happened with the Majingalan coalition, who were the dominant force in this area for a very long time and still are on the western Sabi Sand. But when trouble arises, if a coalition wants to stay in charge, then they need to sort of rally. And certainly that's what the Majingalan lions do. When there's trouble, they roar, they all come together, and they look after what happens together. Now, that could well be the case here, or they could go the way that the Matimbas went. There were 4 Matimbas originally, and of those 4 Matimbas, 2 of them stayed here, 2 went north, and they just never kind of joined up again. And so when the Birmingham Boys came into this area, of course, those Matimbas had absolutely no way of defending themselves against 5 lions. But yes, we certainly could see we could be seeing the beginnings of that sort of stratification, if you like, of their roles in the territory. There's much growling and much tension on account of the male's attentions here. I'm sure he's the one that's created all of the conflict that there is. Well, we have 8 cubs here, and Christine, you say it seems optimistic to think that all of them will make it to adulthood. And is this a typical pride size? Well, the pride size is not atypical for this area. 5 lionesses is pretty standard issue for the Kruger region. 8 cubs making it to adulthood. I think it's highly unlikely that they'll all make it to adulthood. I'm not sure how long they'll all last. Only probably 1 in 10 males makes it to adulthood. There's a big dog fight going on. There's a battalier chasing what looks to be a Wahlberg's eagle. Look at this. Well spotted, VM. Oh, they've turned over. The battalier was put to flight there by the pale form Wahlbergs. I'll just keep watching them. Oh, they've turned away from us, I'm afraid. Anyway, that's quite interesting. Where was I? Yes, so only 1 in 10 of the males will probably make it to the stage that these Birmingham chaps are. The females probably a lot greater success, probably 5 in 10 or so. So I would say, yeah, 50% of these females probably won't make it to adulthood, but an additional 4 females, or how many females are there? There are 5 of them here. Let's say 3 of them will make it. So an additional 3 to this pride will make a big difference to its numbers. There's also something quite special. Isn't that lovely? That, everybody, if I'm not mistaken, is a wood sandpiper. Let me just quickly look it up. I haven't seen one since last year, or since last season, so I'm a little bit, what should we say, rusty. Byron says I'm correct. That means Byron is in the final control. Well, that's very nice. Byron is doing extra work. The wood sandpiper, it is indeed, everybody. We don't often get views like that of the wood sandpiper. I might have to take a rank average photograph of him. Isn't that exciting? Don't you think the world will be a better place for my picture of the wood sandpiper?
Maybe.
Liam is unconvinced. He says maybe.
Never did that impact study on it.
I still can't actually find the wood sandpiper with my camera lens. Okay, while I try and find this wood sandpiper with my camera, let's head across and find out how the vultures are doing with Taylor and their waterbuck carcass. The wind sure ain't howling here. It's completely sheltered where we are, and the cloud has been sort of dissipated by the blazing summer sun. Anyway, so we're sitting here in the sun. The lions are getting a little bit sort of sweaty and panty, and some of them have headed down into the drainage to the other side there, and I think that is where they're going to spend the majority of this day. Now, I'm very pleased to say that this is one of the only times, actually I've seen it, I've read about it many times, of course, that the lions have put paid to any legend that they don't eat waterbuck because they don't taste nice. Well, they certainly killed 2 waterbuck last night, ate most of them, left the scraps for the vultures, and now they're lying in the shade here while the waterbuck, they're lying in waterbuck heaven, I suppose. They've moved, where are we? We're probably about 100 meters to the south, 300 feet to the south of where we first saw these lions. And I think they'll probably move between the shade and the water for the rest of the day. And we may be lucky enough to find them here again this afternoon. But again, I think very interesting that they left that carcass. Obviously, they'd eaten most of it, most of both of them, but they hadn't lain there. You know, like they do most of the time, they will lie around the carcass until it's done, and then they move and they leave it alone. And I think it's because, again, they've eaten so much, they just think, well, you know, we'll go and have a drink, lie in the shade, and if we want to eat again, we'll just kill something else. They've eaten so much in the last few months. getting up and having a bit of a stretch, moving into some cooler shade. And Vim and I were just saying, look, there's quite a lot of mange spotting on just about all the cubs. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. If this is an inexorable disease like the grey scale, or if they will recover from it. I think you're going to find they're fine. Find that they are fine. Joel in New York, I'm not really sure about the answer to this. We obviously focused quite a lot today on disease, and you want to know about the Zika virus and whether it's possible that lions or other animals could get it. I don't know of its origins, Joel. I'm assuming that it probably came from animals originally, and I don't know if it necessarily affected them, because of course we do get viruses that will affect human beings, but their carriers, animal carriers, are not affected by them. And I'm not sure if the Zika virus is one of those. It's quite interesting, actually. It's transferred by mosquitoes, isn't it? So I don't know if that would affect lions. It certainly hasn't come to Africa yet. I don't think there have been any recorded cases here. Certainly the number of mosquitoes in this area at this time of the year would make it quite terrifying were it to be around. Now, a disease I do know about them getting, Sarah in Florida, you weren't worried about rabies and whether or not they can get rabies. Yes, they can. Absolutely. Can you imagine the terror of a male lion filled with rabies? It doesn't tend to make them much more aggressive, apparently, but they do foam at the mouth like a dog does. But yes, they can get rabies. Rabies is a constant threat out here, and we're very vigilant of it, and that, of course, is because of the proximity of the reserve to rural communities where there are absolutely no veterinary facilities, which means many of the dogs go through their lives without any kind of inoculation. And so if a rabies outbreak does occur, it's always possible that those dogs could bring that disease into the reserves, as happened with Sindile. And for those of you who don't know who Sindile is, he's now just over 2 years old, young male leopard, and he caught a rabid dog, which he dragged into a tree, and we managed to chase him away before he could eat it. But he was inoculated before he showed signs, and if you can do that, both with humans and actually with animals, then you can prevent the disease spreading. And he's now okay. But yes, it is a constant worry, and certainly as a human being, you don't want to have anything like, you don't want to go anywhere near rabies. I think there's one recorded human being surviving from rabies in America, and I think they kind of almost cryogenically froze her, and I'm not sure that I don't think that she was ever kind of mentally okay after they did manage to get rid of the disease. It gets into your brain, and then you really are in quite a lot of trouble. Anyway, I think we're going to leave these chaps now. Let's head out. We've got a few minutes left, see if there are one or two more things to see. If we don't see anything, well, then I will see you probably either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. I'm not sure exactly. In the meantime, let's go for the last few minutes with Taylor and those vultures at quarantine. Thanks for coming along our drive. I'm very glad the end turned out slightly more action-packed than the beginning. See you later.